How did he propose to you?
He had borrowed, we went several places together. He seemed to like me and I liked him. He didn't drink, and he didn't have a car of his own, but he drove his sister's Jeep. He took me a lot of places in the Jeep. But this one night, he borrowed my brother's car. Earl was living then. And we drove down the Sunset Beach to look out over the water there when he proposed. And I said, well, if I don't marry you, I probably won't marry anybody, because I don't know of anyone who doesn't drink beer and who doesn't dance and has more in common with me than you do. He said, I feel the same way. So that was the proposal. And then we got married in Drummond Chapel Methodist Church. And Nancy, my sister, baby sister Nancy, was just a little girl then. And we had an evening wedding because Richard was called back as a reserve into the Marine Corps, and he had to report. And Don had already been called, and he and Louise had moved to Texas because Don was stationed in Texas in the Navy.
Was that World War II or was that Korea?
What?
Was that Korea or World War II?
That was after the World War II. And then, they had the Korean outbreak, one of those.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And Dick was in the reserves, so he was called back too. And then he was called back and had to go to, I forget where it was. And I was still working as secretary at the high school. And then he got out of the service because he thought he was going to have to go to Vietnam or wherever it was. I forget where he was supposed to go, but in the end he had his duffel bag packed and ready to go. They called him back at the last minute. He didn't have to go. And Don and Louise had moved to Texas and left their apartment, and we took over the apartment and lived there for a while. And I still worked. And he went back to Pennsylvania, West Virginia Supply Company to work where he had worked before he was called back into service.